Hello YouTube, Red Reptiles here with another video, and in today's video we are back inside the reptile room. I want to give you guys an update of actually what happened yesterday here in my yard and my area. And I'll just show you guys some updates on these radiated tortoises that I have them inside. I also want to take like a closer look on them. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and let's get started. All right, so you can see we kind of have a mess in the reptile room. There's some tubs everywhere. Things are a little bit out of their place. We got the larger of these smaller radiateds in this tub, and then the rest are up here. The reason why the lamp is on here and not these guys is because I wanted to make sure these guys got dried up. As you can see, we have some superficial fungus on them because they've been outside for a very long time. This is very normal here when you put an animal outside because they're constantly getting wet and humid. But it also gives me the chance to dry them up a little bit, keep a closer look, check their weights, and obviously, you know, keep a close eye on them and see what's going on. Same with these down here. I'm also going to be trying to attempt to sex these larger ones. They're absolutely massive. Almost want to put them with Victoria and the Aldabras, but I'm kind of hesitant just because of a certain reason, which I'll explain now. So yesterday there was torrential downpour in my area. Obviously, we're in the springtime. It's going to be starting to rain coming into the summer months. As you guys know, I did incredible expansion for the Aldabras and these radiateds. And, you know, normally here in my yard, I do get some flooding, mostly with the sulcatas, with goobs and gabs. But on the Aldabra side, not as intense. And especially where these younger radiateds are, there's not that much water that kind of, you know, pools up. But it rained consistently for a very long time. And I got a lot of water there. I wasn't home, but luckily my father was, and he went straight into action. I got to give him a huge shout out. He went, grabbed all these tortoises, rounded them up, put them under the, terrace that we have so they can get out of the water, moved the Aldabras and Victoria into the elevated shelter, and then Aristotle came on out. But, we got that kind of settled, which I'll show you guys here later. But my biggest concern is now, what do I do for the flooding for these guys? I have a few ideas of how to kind of delegate the water, but I also might just put some rock, put some sand, elevate that as much as I can, like that. They have a little bit more drainage. My yard is basically clay as the ground, so it's very tough, especially on the goobs and gap side. So the water drains, but slower than it would if it was a little bit more of a softer, forgiving soil. So here are these radiateds. We're gonna take a closer look of each individual one, and then I'll show you guys what's going on outside. All right, guys, so we're gonna start off with these four that are in the tub. So a little bit of a preface, I don't have names for these three. These are about the same age. I acquired them all at the same time. And as you can see, one is a little bit larger than the other two, but that's just how these tortoises are. They're very slow growers. Believe it or not, in this tub, my oldest one is this one right here, is my first radiated I've ever got. And as you can see, the growth is a little bit less than these two, which are younger, not too far young behind, but as you can see, complete difference. But they all grow at their own pace. They're all healthy, they're all eating. That's important. So back to this tub, we'll start off with this guy right here. This is Manja. Manja is a baby of a female called, no, not Manja, sorry, this is Malagasy. Malagasy is a baby from a female called Manja. Manja is a stud book animal, which is number 222 brought into the country. As you can see, some superficial fungus, but absolute beautiful growth, even though it has a slight pyramiding. All these animals have been raised the exact same way, exact same diet. You guys have seen the process well documented here on YouTube and on Instagram. If we move on to the next three right here, these guys are doing great. Very hard to tell the sex of them right now because obviously they're a little bit too young. But it brings me to this animal right here. Nothing wrong with it other than I feel like it's a little bit inactive when it is outside. So I might keep it inside just to monitor a little bit of its growth. Put some, weight on it, more weight, let it feed a lot better, because obviously these guys can all be raised together, but I'm sure these monsters are eating more of the food than those guys right there. So, basic setup, how I would keep them inside like I do all my tortoises that I've raised up, and I'll go ahead and obviously do that. So we'll move on to this tub right here. This girl right here is 11. And I say girl because I thought it was a girl, but I'm honestly not sure. It's still too little to obviously tell 100%. But it has that shorter tail, wider, scoot there to go ahead and pass an egg eventually as a ventral scoop. A beautiful animal, nice weight, of course. These guys over here, this is Flair and this is Hopper. Hopper is insanely big compared to everybody else. And it just makes me happy because I've raised these guys very, very, long time. Keeping them inside, keeping them outside, bringing them in and out. And I think these guys might be girls. I'll get a better clip now when I put down the phone just to kind of record better. Flare is doing great as well. My absolute favorite, honestly, because I just love how domed this shell is, and I love the kind of 3 scoop pattern right here. Very beautiful. And then this guy right here, Star Platinum, around the same age as Malagasy, just a little bit larger, but like I said, everybody has their own growth. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse them off and put them outside right now. Just wanted to make sure that everything dried up nicely in their habitat, which I'll go ahead and show you guys in the next few clips. This next shot, I'll go ahead and 0.5 it so I can give you guys a better look at these larger rads. As you can see, super nice growth. What I think is a female, even though I thought these were gonna be males, just because they grew a lot faster and they displayed some behavior, but still too young to tell. Obviously, they could change vastly. Not that they're gonna change in gender, but you know, they change in kind of, you know, looks. So they might get flatter plastrons, more indents in their plastron, you know, can indicate if it's a male or female. And then same goes for this one here. This one to me might be a male just because the tail's a little bit longer, but like I said, still too young, and obviously just immense beautiful growth. They do have a slight indentation in their plastron, so you know, maybe I'll have a 2.1 here. You guys know that I have Victoria, who is a pretty big female. She's just waiting for a nice male, which I did acquire one, but it had some problems, and I wanted to just go ahead and, you know, deal with that as I needed to. But as you can see, everybody's doing great. The only one that I'm gonna monitor is this little one. Might keep the other 2 in there just to kind of see if it'll eat, but other than that, everyone is doing great. And you know, they have a beautiful outdoor enclosure, other than the fact that it does flood if it rains too hard, so I gotta think of ways to kind of combat that. All right, so we're gonna be back out here. This is the Aldabra habitat. You guys saw it in the last video. Right now everything is dry, but the water was about up to right here, just a little bit under. Too much water, obviously. Luckily this is elevated. It is not very insulated. The water does get, you know, inside from rain, but it's not gonna flood because we know that it is high enough. It has about a cinder block high level. It's gonna drain out the water. There's cypress mulch. Everybody's doing great in here. I'm gonna go ahead and let them out here shortly, but you can see there's Aristotle, Victoria, and all the other tortoises. They're gonna be doing fine in there. I just had to block them in because Aristotle was the only one to kind of freak out and walk back out, so I had to come once again after my dad helped me put them in and grab her and put her back inside. So yeah, in the meanwhile, what I did is I raked everything, make sure everything is nice and dry. Obviously there's lots of humidity outside today. I created a bigger food dish. We only know we had those 3. I added 3 more just to kind of give them a little bit more space. Like that, the hay will stay a lot drier too, so I'm letting that kind of dry. All these plates floated away, and then leads us into the younger radiated habitat. I originally had them in just this space, kind of back there. It would rain heavy, nothing would happen. I think it's a lot sandier right here. That is the difference. And then back there, it's a little bit more dirt, more clay, like I explained earlier. So as you can see, the water level got up to pretty much right at that top of that plank there. And this house, I did not make it suitable enough for me to kind of open the lid, so I got to work on this. I need to make it just kind of retractable so I can open it up and grab them. I might even change it to one of those dry storage boxes that I have for the hay. Just, it's a lot easier. I can elevate it a little bit better. They'll stay nice and dry, but you can see the water was pretty high, and those smaller tortoises were not going to stand a chance. So shout out to my dad once again for, you know, taking lead on that and getting that done. But I might just break up the soil as much as I can in here, put sand, put big pieces of gravel like that. I can have better drainage. Might open up some holes in the wood. If you guys have any suggestions and can leave those suggestions in the comments down below, I would really appreciate that, because I obviously want to do the best for my animals, and I've dealt with the flooding before, and I'm usually always on hand, but there might be a day that I won't be able to get to it, and unfortunately that could cause a lot of damage for these tortoises. Even though if you guys know kind of what goes on in Madagascar, there is floods that happen. Actually, as of the last few months, there's been intense natural causes and flooding that has kind of tormented the country of Madagascar, and the Radiateds have, you know, handled that, but they do have human care to go ahead and grab them and things like that. So this right here is a work in progress, but that's just the, you know, the beauty of animal keeping. You always got to keep yourself on your toes and always adapt and you know, do what's best for the animals. Just like the animals would adapt in the wild, we got to adapt as keepers as well. That leads us back into Mando's enclosure. He had water in there, but obviously he can get elevated, stay as dry as possible, even though a little bit of rain isn't going to do anything for him. But he's adapting nicely, and he actually enjoys this cage, I think, a lot better than the other one. Like I said, very limited movement, does his thing. And then over here, You can see the water got kind of high. And the only tortoise to use this section is Victoria. She kind of hangs out in this section and then goes back and forth. But the Aldabras are still being too habitual. They do not realize that this is open. So I've been doing feeding attempts in this pathway just to kind of get them to explore a little bit more. But it's going to take some time. And there's Louis, one of my dogs. And yeah, so that is kind of what went down in this area. You guys know the usual flooding story we hear in my yard. But that's just the nature of being in South Florida, and things like that do happen. So we just got to adapt and continue to provide what's best for these animals. So we're here in Goobs and Gab's section. There's Goobs hanging out on his beach area. This was all covered in water, but you guys know that's pretty normal for this area. In the past, I had an elevated shelter right here, but I had to kind of get rid of that, and I still need to find a viable enough shed that I can put it here elevated so these guys can go ahead and live in it. But Goobs and Gabs handle it beautifully. That area right there is a mound that they created themselves. It stays completely dry. They hang out there. A little bit of water and weather, some rain is not going to do anything to them, but they're doing great. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on them as well, because I'm sure some of you guys are going to be wondering how they fared that weather as well. All right, so in the meantime, what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and feed all the tortoises. And like that, I'll let these guys out, put the radiateds back out, and then I can monitor the younger one to see if it's eating. So the butter lettuce or the Boston lettuce, you guys know it's going to be for Victoria. I try to feed her individually because those Aldabras do eat a lot. But the main diet for all these Aldabras is the hay, and so is for the older radiated. But I just throw on some romaine lettuce on top, some peppers, some squashes. And then today we have green leaf lettuce for the younger radiateds, and I kind of sprinkle it in their habitat. And then I just have a bunch of old, not old, but like about to go bad, some shredded up zucchini, which is the same kind of combination of both of these. This will be for the Aldabras. I'll throw it on top of the hay and let them go ahead and basically feed on that. So I might do two kind of stations. I'll feed a little bit here with the hay, and then I'll put some, like I was explaining, maybe a little bit further into this area. See if I can entice them to go this way. And hopefully, they keep exploring, but time will tell as they get older. There's some old squash that I kind of found through the flood that I had fed from the last feeding, still viable. They're going to go ahead and eat that. So we're going to go and do that now. So here is the hay box. It actually stayed nice and dry during all that rain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a nice handful to feed Goobs and Gabs. Right now I got to start going through this side of the yard, step into the sand. Did not get a chance to rake this up, but it's still pretty clean. I'll rake it up in the next week and a half. I like to spread it out for them, put them a nice pile of that orchard grass, and then I'll go ahead and get them some more right now. All right, so these guys are now free to go. I'll show you guys what I did. Like I explained, some old kind of squash, they'll go ahead and work on that. On this station, put basically the bell peppers, all the zucchini, yellow squash, all that kind of shredded zucchini that I had on top of the hay. They'll go ahead and work on this. Like I said, their main diet is the hay, of course. Inside the radiated habitat is the green leaf lettuce. I'll go ahead and put the ones that I'm going to put outside. Keep that one little guy indoors and kind of feed him for about a week or two. Just monitor, make sure that it's doing good. Put a fresh pile of romaine lettuce, so hopefully they'll smell it, see it, walk over here. And then for Victoria, who I know will kind of expand to this section, we got some butter lettuce right here, some of that Boston lettuce, of course. And then I put a little bit of it back here. It's kind of good enrichment too. Let her kind of sniff around and explore. And there's some cactus kind of sprinkled around as well. And then we cannot forget Mando, who is eating that organic spring mix. Love this guy. And like I said, he's living that bachelor life here comfortably as well. All right, guys, so that pretty much wraps up today's video. I want to know your guys' ideas about dealing with the flooding in these habitats. And of course, I want to give you guys an update about everything that went on here. We also went ahead and fed the tortoises, so I thought I would share that with you guys as well. These radiators are going to finish eating up. I kept that single animal inside. I'm going to monitor its progress for about a week or two. Even though I don't see it declining, I just want to make sure that it's eating, and then I'll put it back outside with the group. Maybe I'll separate those three into a separate habitat as well. And as you can see out here, Aristotle came out, and then Victoria is kind of walking down the ramp there. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Subscribe, rate, comment, and likes, and see my fellow herbers.